Ni hao, hoi dai lao, Ken da jiao lu.
Good evening and welcome to another show of Ken's Corner.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Ken. It's good to see you, my friend, after the wonderful week we had with the live stream last week, but we're back to business this week.
Yep.
And for those of you that do not know, Ken will be doing a new Kite spear-handed strike straight to the false narrative of the mass media. This
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
That makes you weak, huh?
Oh, yeah. Ken, let's always begin in the same place because you have an interesting shirt.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Grass grower.
Grass grower extraordinaire. It's from it's 1917. It's what they called the when you unfortunately when you killed somebody they kept the bodies there, and that's the fertilizer for the body. So I don't know where I got it. I haven't worn it a whole lot because I just have so many shirts, but I just thought I'd put it on today.
As I recall, there was a Roman general who said that blood makes the grass grow. So
yes, same type of thing. Type of thing. Yep.
Very much
yes.
so. And Ken, I believe you have read some comments from our live stream that you'd like to bring up.
Yes, and just remember that thank you for listening and subscribing and liking and sharing and all that good stuff. You know, that's how the YouTube algorithms work. But I have three that I've just short ones. And so first one is one from Penguin TI6UD, praying for the beloved people of Israel continually. And that's what we're called to do. Pray for Jerusalem, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's what we're called to do. I wanted to share that. The next one, I've shared one of his before, Ulf Windman. Dear Ken and Jay, your exegesis is honest yet humane. This weekly broadcast saves more than the day. This is salves for sores. You may not win popularity contests, but you're gaining loyal friends. That was really cool. And then the last one is Lori Gatlin. The live stream was awesome. Great job. So, and then I just want to thank the whole list of people. Like I said, the list is big, and no baloney Mahoney, Truth Watch. Thank you, Jesus. Martin Wilmabor, Gingo to Bingo, PJ Fontaine, Maxine Mahaney, J777, Aleph Tav, Eileen Bryson, Kathy 6556, Electric Life, Pompabella, Martin Coombs, Ulf Windman, Robert Lick, Wanzari, Jamie Andrews, Shannon Devoy, waiting on his return, Jenny B, and Berber. Those are like the guys that constantly comment. And thank you so much for watching the show last week. I'm a little more comfortable this week because we're taping this week.
I would like to say thank you so much to Rihanna for waking up at, it must have been 5 a.m. in the morning. To help us get the show done. And actually, I want to share this live with you, Ken, because I was talking to her on Wednesday, and there is a town. I don't remember the town. Hopefully, if you're watching, you can comment which town, but there is a town in Africa where her mother lives, where everybody watches Ken's Corner.
Wow. No way.
So we are on the continent.
That's awesome.
It's in Nairobi. I know it's in Nairobi, I believe.
Wow.
I couldn't tell you the name of the town, but we are town famous.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Praise God.
That is. Praise God. Seriously. Praise God.
Thank you for watching. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Wow.
Well, Ken, we have so much news this week. We covered a lot in catching up with Jacob, but there is just so much more coming to the front. So I want to get started because I know this is going to be a long show. Let's begin, of course, with the topic that everyone is fixated on, the war in Israel. To begin with, you told me that Netanyahu has called this the second war for independence. That boggles my mind, considering the history of Israel and what they've had to deal with.
That was a quote. And this is as of 10/28 today, October 28th. We'll replay this, whenever you get this out. But he said, yeah, we are just at the beginning of the journey. This is our second war of independence. That's Netanyahu. And he had a speech that he talked about stuff. I didn't watch it. I'm waiting for things to kind of solidify a little bit. I'm kind of waiting for them to really go into Gaza. I'll talk about that a little bit. But the defense minister of Israel says that Gaza invasion will last months, not weeks. And we can see that. I talked about the tunnels. Meanwhile, the wild card that I've always looked at was Turkey, and they just leveled up. Erdogan threatened to declare war on Israel and send military into Gaza. And remember, I think I talked about it last week. Remember, I talked about the Turkish military. They are studly, man. They're huge and they are studly. But the Turkish president suggests in a speech at a pro-Palestinian rally this afternoon, Saturday the 28th, that Turkey can come at night unexpectedly. And Erdogan told the pro-Palestinian crowd that Israeli was responsible for war crimes and framed Hamas as freedom fighters. So Erdogan suggested assaults on Gaza constituted a massacre. So the pro-Palestinian crowd responded with chants, Turkish military to Gaza. So Israel recalls all its diplomats from Turkey, finally. But, the bombing and incursion, I know you guys stayed on it for like a half hour. You guys were on it for a half hour, but I'm just kind of getting you guys got Jacob, and he's way more knowledgeable about the political aspects and all the background because he's been there. But I just look at the war kind of background. Last night, Israeli warplanes unleashed an airstrike of unprecedented intensity across all parts of Gaza Strip. The bombing has taken down communications and electricity. Hamas said Israel cut communications and most of the internet. According to one report, the Israelis even unleashed bunker busters, concussion missiles to try to destroy extensive Hamas tunnel network underground. I talked about that last week, the tunnels, and how it's going to be hand-to-hand fighting, and if they go in. I think it's just a preparatory softening up operation. They wanted to see what the Hamas guys did, how the defenders reacted. So we'll see what happens. I heard that the Israelis unleashed artillery and tank fire at Gaza as well. Hamas claimed that the attack was halted due to their defensive efforts. Israeli claimed that the halt was voluntary and the real attack will occur at a different time and place. So this is when they're playing with the news media, and they'll put out false news stories. So you got to be careful. What is confirmed is that multiple assaults on Gaza are ongoing. We can see that there are amphibious landings that have occurred in the west, along with armored infantry advances in north, south, and east. So that's all I have. That's I'm just trying to keep up the you guys talked about all the backgrounds and stuff. So.
Ken, I just want to make a real quick connection between a couple of the points that you brought up. What I find very interesting about the statement coming out of Turkey, coming from Erdogan, we know that the senior Hamas leadership is in Qatar.
Yeah.
But what also is very interesting is that there's over, I believe, 180 companies that are Turkish-born companies that are headquartered in Qatar. So the two economies are very much linked, according to what I know.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So it would seem that maybe there are some other forces involved in some of the decisions that Turkey's making. And then on top of that, you realize that with Turkey, as with America, there's a lot of money to be made by field testing weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Skirmish.
Yeah. I mean, we're testing. We're not using any bunker busters, and they've been around for how long? We used them in Afghanistan. Shoot them into the hills, but and so we got to use them, right? So here they are.
Yeah.
And I read. I think I saw 150 bunkers that they dropped. I think I saw 150 was the number, 150 or 160. So, yeah. And so and you look at the one that's under the hospital, the biggest bunker, and the hospital, their biggest hospital in Gaza has 4,000 employees and 1,000, patients, and it's crazy. And supposedly there's underground tunnels and crazy operations going on underneath that hospital.
So just to clarify, I wanted to make sure that I had this right, but currently more than 180 Turkish companies are operating in Qatar at a total value of projects undertaken by the Turkish companies in Qatar has reached a level of $17.4 billion.
Wow. That's big.
That's how tied they are to the people who are hosts of the leadership of Hamas.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. There's so much, and that's why I'm waiting. I'm kind of waiting for things to kind of, and I talk about deception later on. I want to make sure that, because that's a main thing, man, is being deceived and Matthew 24, I talk about, God talks, God put that in his word, man, don't be deceived 4 times. And he put everything else one time, Israel back in the land, pestilence, famine, rumors of war, blah, 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 everything. One time. 4 times he mentions, don't be deceived. So, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, get an angle. We're going to go into the mass shooting, and it's hopefully doesn't offend anybody.
Right on time, Ken. Right on time. Yeah. I couldn't have done it better. On the topic of deception, we have something we'd like to share with everybody here on Ken's Corner. If you would, Ken, maybe explain what we're looking at right here.
So a custom Google search by date reveals the mass shooting story uploaded to media services at least 4 days prior to the event. And that's I'm just making an observation. I do a custom Google search initiated on 10/26, a couple days back at 5:30 in the morning. I made Eastern time, yielded several Lewiston, Maine mass shooting articles that were predated by 1 to 4 days before the event occurred. The articles were all released on the 25th. That's exactly what they want you to see. But the news report was uploaded to the server or word processor, whatever, 1, 2, and 4 days before the shooting. And they do this to be able to throw it all at once out at you. So it's a pre-written script. And anytime something takes over the news, you just know that it's there's something more to it. There's something more to it.
Ken, help me out with this, because maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but do they have crystal balls, or do they have some kind of news tarot cards where before mass shooter events they can almost predict them?
I know that. Well, I'm going to go over a lot of the shooting events that they have. These people were part of the MK Ultra program. And maybe they're monitoring them and they turn them on. I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know how they can. Yeah.
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
What's MK Ultra? I heard that was just a conspiracy.
Yeah. And it's that and MK Naomi, which, but let me go into that real quick. So, please. Robert Card was found dead today. And he was found either in or near a dumpster. And it's not certain whether he had 1 or 2 gunshot wounds to his head. If he had 2 to his head and they're self-inflicted, there's something off. Okay. And I'm asking the questions. Was the shooter an MK Ultra patsy mind control? Yes, it's tragic. Yes, it's an atrocity. Yes, he needed to be caught and dealt with. But as always, I just have questions, okay? So just remember that under the CIA, the MK Ultra program and NK Naomi program, which NK Naomi was a code name for the Joint Department of Defense Research from 1950 to 1970s, they admittedly trained people to be assassins and mass shooters. So example, Sirhan, and that's total, that's well known. Adam Lanza, Sandy Hook, and was involved with the CIA, and his family was too. Look it up. I'm serious. I'm not saying this was MK Ultra. I'm just asking the question. Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was in the MK Ultra program. Source: Washington Post and LA Times reported that. The Batman shooter at the Aurora movie theater, his dad ran government brain interface programs. He was a volunteer in mind control experiments. I'm just sharing this easy to find for now research of these past shooters just to keep the believer's mind open to deception. I'm going to say it again. Matthew 24, 4 times Jesus said, do not be deceived. All right. More than any of the other predictions, like, wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, famine. He said 1 time, but 4 times he said, do not be deceived. I watch this stuff extra close. I don't trust the government narrative. And I know the tragedy. I feel for these people who experience the trauma, loss of a husband, a brother, a wife, sister, young child. It's tragic, but I want the truth, and I want to see behind the curtain to see what the powers that be have planned. Match it up with biblical prophecy and frog hop my way through life. All right. Knowing that when I'm called home to ultimately be with Christ, that I've run my race well, doing all that I was called to do on this planet. They locked down Maine, a state that had 22 homicides last year, 22 only, and they locked it all down. So just a sidebar, you think you're going to take guns away while they flood the border and eventually the country with terrorists? I'm just saying. So what, and what do you want to bet? Lastly, I'll say, what do you want to bet he was on SSRIs? So if you've ever read the SSRI, which is it's caused a lot of directly linked, stuff that they say on the inserts, it could cause mass murder, megalomania, delusions of grandeur, suicide, and a bunch of other things. So there's a small percentage of people, when you put them on these and you suggest them to do horrible things, that is a deadly combo.
And by the way, we never, because of medical privacy, we never know these things.
No,
we never know what kind of pharmaceutical drugs, what mind-altering drugs the people that commit these crimes are on. Yep.
And I'd rather have privacy. I'd rather just assume. So
I think, for a regular citizen that has never committed a crime, I absolutely agree. But I think when you've stepped over that line where you're being accused of this, this needs to be part of the public discussion. Yeah, and then part of the public discussion is to see if the consistency of how, because I know that Klebold and the 2 guys that did the Colorado, the Columbine shooting, they were totally on SSRIs. Both of them were totally on SSRIs. Yeah, they had their parents should have been on them early, but and this is pre internet as well, so, but they were totally on SSRIs. And to your point, Gavin, I'd like to reinforce something that you said. It is a tragedy. We don't want to try to take away from the fact that people died by this man's hand. But at the same time, like you said, it would be a bigger tragedy to the memory of those people if we didn't look at all possible angles with this person to try to uncover what was there. And if there is any other trails leading anywhere else. Yeah. Did they turn him on? Did they get, who, was he dropped? How did he get away? All this other stuff. Yeah. How did he go from an instructor to this? Yeah. Yeah. What was his, he, and it talked about how the voices, he had heard voices in his head and so, yeah. All right. So we have the narrative. We have these very damning photos. I mean, I've heard many people talk about crisis actors, and I'm sorry, but when you have a shooting happening and you have the story posted days before the shooting happens, that's almost like you're trying to bait people to talk about it from the angle of conspiracy. Or what's it trying to get people away from? It's trying to, it takes over the news for a little bit, and I don't know. I just don't know. I'm keeping my mind open. I'm trying to look at everything. My peer view is out wide. So I'm looking at everything, trying to take it all in, and then I put it biblical. I have to put it biblical, just like what we talked about Chuck Missler, in our pre-show. Chuck Missler said, "I'm when Turkey gets into this thing, that's what I'm looking at." Yep. And then when Turkey got into it, the way, and they weren't into it at the first. They weren't. He was kind of laying back, and then all of a sudden he had 1.5 million people he talked to, the pro-Palestinian gathering, man. Yep.
So there was like 1.5 million people in Turkey. It's crazy.
It leads us to wonder, can the government protect any of us at all?
Yeah.
Especially considering we'll talk about it later, the border crisis. But this is even more disturbing. Our next story, Ken, we're seeing a repeat of history.
Yeah.
I dare say that in the Empire State of New York, we are seeing a repeat of when they told Anne Frank to hide in the attic.
Yeah.
They just told Jews in New York they can't be protected. To hide.
To hide. Yeah, to hide. Yeah, it's crazy. The Jewish college kids that were found it necessary to barricade themselves inside a library. You saw that one, right? In the center of Greenwich Village. The message is being broadcast that on this Sabbath, so today, Jews in Brooklyn had better remain at home. Pro-Palestinian protest is scheduled for 3 p.m. this weekend today, Saturday, in front of Brooklyn Museum. That's about 1 mile away from 770 Eastern Parkway. And I've been there. The headquarters of the largest ultra-Orthodox sect in the world, the Lubavitch Hasidim. And quote unquote, Jews should avoid the area, said a security source, and they have no idea where the mob will go, so better stay inside, is what they're saying. But the most Jewish city in the world outside Israel is telling Jews to hide. That's scary. That's crazy. I know.
You know what's horrible is every single one of the people that would go after these young Jewish students would say, I hate Zionists. That's why I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. But what they don't understand, that they fail to understand, is that when you are forcing Jews to hide, you're repeating the events that started Zionism in a sense, that brought Zionism to the forefront.
Yeah.
The reason why after World War II you had a push for Zionism was the saying by Jews, never again.
Never again. Yep.
And yet here we are.
Yes. But we're going to be even more so, the Zechariah prophecy, right? Zechariah 2/3. Yeah. So it's going to get bad. So, but the 1/3 that remains, they pray for Christ to come back. So.
Amen. Please, Amen. Maranatha, Lord, come.
Maranatha, yeah.
Well, as New York admits that they can't, protect their Jewish minority, the Fed of all people sounds the alarm. Potential infiltration on the southern border. Ken, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, they talk about potential infiltration of Hamas, Palestine, Islamic Jihad, PIJ, and Hezbollah at the southern border. So federal officials have sounded the alarm on an internal memo, which was dated October 20th. The San Diego Field Office Intelligence Division of Customs and Border Protection sent a memo warning about potential encounters with members linked to terrorist organizations. So, quote, foreign fighters motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. to or from countries in the Middle East through Mexico. FBI Director Chris Wray, I didn't know he was still around. FBI Director Chris Wray issued a dire warning about the rise of violent extremism. I guess that is one area I was with Trump, on, and that was his border policy. So he championed the cause, the importance of securing the border to ensure the safety and security of American citizens. If you're wondering why this administration is doing what they're doing and allowing what they're allowing, you have to look at what I say always, the 31,000 foot level. This country is being judged. And I don't know where it goes from here. I do know biblically we're not mentioned in the end times, so I don't know where it goes. But Israel is a timepiece, all right? Yep. And the nations around Israel. So that's what you need to look at. So I say Maranatha again, and just keep us comforted, Lord, through these tough times.
And, this next story brings up another thing that Christ warned us so many times. I mean, in the Quran, it says there will come a time when the trees and the rocks will cry out and say, good Muslim, there's a Christian behind me.
There's a Jew behind me.
There's a Jew behind me, the tree. Come and kill them. And in the Bible, it repeats it by saying there will come a day when they will come to kill you, my disciples, Christians, thinking that they're doing God a favor.
Yes.
And which that comes right. That is so poignant to the point of these two men from Calgary facing charges for a conversation they had on a train.
A private conversation between them. Yeah, two Calgary men charged for private conversation en route. They were going to the 1 million person march, which was a march that they had. But two Calgary men are facing charges after someone reported their private conversation on city transit. The convo interfered with another transit user's comfort, right? So the two men were riding the mostly empty train. It was mostly empty on their way to participate in the 1 million person march. The two men were detained by law enforcement upon exiting the train. Police handcuffed one of the men, and both were charged and ticketed and summoned to court in late November. So there has been more and more concern over the increase of city bylaws used to restrict conversation but not criminal conversation. I mean, it's crazy. So we can see that what offends someone else, will we be talking about, the Lord? Will we be talking about the Bible? That's where
all you have to do is be reading a Bible in public. All you have to do is be wearing a crucifix or a cross in public.
That's where it goes.
Will be enough to make someone uncomfortable very shortly.
Where it goes. And we need to talk about this to get people prepared. We do, to get people prepared so they don't freak out. Number one, but maybe they can. I don't know. I can't believe it's going on. It's so fast. It's so fast.
And one thing that I'd like us to encourage all of our watchers and listeners right now: pray for these men. Pray for these men as they go to court, that they can present a case that will not only speak to their defense, but will speak to everyone in that courtroom about how Christians want to reconcile the truth to life, to be salt and light in that courtroom for those people in darkness, especially in Canada these days.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, that's just up north. That's not like across the way.
That's not UK. That's our backyard.
That's our border.
That's our backyard.
Yep.
And speaking somewhere else in our backyard, let's call this our neighbor's backyard. Yeah. Some good news.
Yes.
Crime is plummeting under the Turkish leadership of Nayib
El Salvador.
Yeah, but he's the president of El Salvador, but he's of Turkish descent.
Yes, he is. I'm sorry. Yes.
Nayib Bukele has a zero tolerance on gang violence and is taking it to MS-13 in a very new way. In fact, many lawyers are very concerned about his treatment of the MS-13 gang members, calling this one of the great humanitarian crises of Latin America, as their rights are being trampled on, their human rights.
You remember when El Salvador was the murder capital of the world?
Right? I absolutely do.
So the country has gone over 300 days without a homicide after El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, implemented a zero tolerance policy for gang violence. 300 days. It's crazy. The nation rounded up over 50,000 suspected gang members, also referred to them as terrorists. So that's what's crazy. But the rest fled probably to the U.S. because we don't have a border. So our borders are non-existent. So they're here. So since Bukele's system has been very efficient, videos of him criticizing U.S. politicians for allowing crime to escalate across America are beginning to circulate. And he was on Tucker. And he was talking straight up about this. But the demise of America has come from within. Bukele has harshly criticized for rounding up the criminals, but it worked. Crime is definitely on the rise in America, but the policies are continually favoring the criminals. So I will continue pointing out the Cloward-Piven. We talked about this, the Cloward-Piven strategy on creating civil unrest. And the Cloward-Piven strategy here's the four ways it goes. Overload and number one, overload and break the welfare system. Number two, have chaos ensue. Number three, take control in the chaos. Number four, implement socialism and communism through government force. And so look at what George Soros did with the Open Society Foundation during the last election. They funded protests in all major U.S. cities, violent protests where people were murdered and small businesses were burned to the ground. They funded the media to report on how the criminals were misunderstood and the police needed to be defunded. Some people ask if people have lost their minds after the COVID pandemic. But the real reason is the U.S. spiraling down internally. It's intentional. So got to burn it down to build back better.
You know, it's interesting because I'm thinking to myself, the Cloward Piven, it could be that the president of Salvador is very much using that same tactic. Yes. The overload, the breaking of the society, the chaos that ensues. He presents the solution and thereby gains more appeal and more power.
Yeah. The good part of Cloward Piven. Yeah.
Which, the Cloward Piven also, it does harken back almost to the narrative in Revelation and how the Antichrist is going to use those same tactics.
Totally. Yep. That's why I related that. Yes, exactly. Everything relates. Everything relates to the Bible. Everything relates. Yes, it all relates.
Something else that's relating is this. This is a mind-blowing quote that you brought to me. On Twitter, a secular humanist quote says, "Demons are real."
Yes. So this
unpack that for me.
Yeah. So these are the two Twitter quotes, and then I go into Elon Musk and X, and so I kind of wanted to get into it, but this is one of the quotes. "Current events make a lot more sense once you accept that demons literally exist and are actively roaming the earth." That's crazy. And another quote is, "Why hasn't anyone suggested we just send social workers into Israel and Gaza to de-escalate the situation?" That's a funny one. So, but the first one was these are secular people looking into what they're seeing, and they see the spiritual aspect of things, and that's what we have to look at. I talk about it weekly. Serious. Yep.
There is definitely something spiritual. And you know what? It speaks more to the fact that there is soil that has been prepared for the seed of the gospel. If they can see that demons have their hand in current events, that tells you that just like the demons know that there is a God, this guy or this person, I don't know, male or female, this person also knows that there's something beyond the evil that's roaming in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, talk to me a little bit about Elon Musk and the money situation on X. Formerly Twitter, X, and he wants to build it into a full-on finance platform within a year, so users won't need a bank account anymore. And he expects those features to be launched by the end of 2024. So crazy fast. Quote, "When I say payments, I actually mean someone's entire financial life," unquote. Another quote, "If it involves money, it will be on our platform, money or securities or whatever. So it's not just like sending $20 to a friend. I'm talking about you won't need a bank account." That's crazy. Musk has been very vocal about adding more financial capabilities to the platform, and X has been working on obtaining more licenses nationwide to make his financial juggernaut dream a reality. Musk hopes that these steps will lead to necessary infrastructure to enter the payment business. And it's crazy. And to make sure your account's secure, make sure you get your Neuralink.
Yeah, make sure you get your Neuralink so you can think about your account, and then it just shows up in front of your head and bing, poof.
I still say that Elon is a candidate. He's definitely still a candidate.
Still a candidate. Yep.
Okay. Actually, Neuralink is a great segue to our next story, actually, because recently the WEF was talking about the security of identity. Mm-hmm. And they want to secure identity and make humans a hackable animal, according to our good friend
Noah Harari.
Oh, yes.
A man or sir, accept him or her for whatever it might be. It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
Yes. So as he talks about surveillance going under the skin this time. So you're looking at previous surveillance was mainly above the skin. Now it's going under the skin. So the top advisor to Klaus Schwab is revealing some of the dark goals of World Economic Forum. As you said, humans are now hackable animals. That was a quote. And another quote, history began when humans invented gods and will end when humans become gods. So COVID was just a stepping stone, man. This is just we're living in the last days. We're totally living in the last. I don't know if it's 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. I don't know, but it's coming, man. We're so there. It's awesome.
You have to wonder: does Noah Harari realize that he's doing the lines of the serpent in the Garden of Eden?
Yes,
exactly.
That's what's crazy. These people do not know the Bible. They don't know Scripture, and it's such a wall between them and even if they heard it, they would be like, well, the demon would probably yell in his ear so he wouldn't understand it. Yeah. These people have demons that are huge demons.
Yes,
huge demons.
They are vessels for the demons. The fact that he can mimic exactly, you will be as gods.
Yes. Woo. Yeah, that's crazy.
Makes my skin crawl.
Yep, me too. Wow.
Something else that makes my skin crawl. Yes. Something that seems to be a very interesting coincidence. Now,
yes,
you brought this up, and it's very fascinating. Back in the day, before we invaded Afghanistan, the World Series, George Bush throws the first pitch in the World Series. Before we invaded Afghanistan, George Bush throws the first pitch. As boots were hitting the ground in Gaza, George Bush was throwing the first pitch.
Yep.
At the World Series.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? So I was watching. We were at a restaurant, and I just happened to look up, and the World Series was on, and so right before a major war, I'm sure it's all a coincidence, though, So
yes.
But right after 9/11, he threw the first pitch of the. What's funny is I noticed, I'm kind of athletic, so I noticed the first pitch he threw before 9/11. I didn't say this in the pre-show. It doesn't matter, but it's just funny how he threw a perfect pitch, and this one hit the ground. He was moved up, and this one hit the ground. He's 22 years older, so he's probably, I don't know, what's he, probably almost 80.
Lost a little bit of spring in the ligaments and the arm.
It just went down. The guy had to catch it off the ground. So anyway, that's just an athletic sidebar. But the whole thing is I don't know, man. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure.
No, absolutely. It's a coincidence, much like the regime that we have nowadays is working a disaster with their open borders to usurp more power, just like after 9/11, to bring us to probably a Patriot Act Part 2.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me what's happening. What is happening on the border? I think we discussed it a little bit earlier, but who are we finding on the border?
So terrorist cells are in the U.S. They're here, and I've several sources telling me about them moving in. As I have said many times, this is nothing more than judgment. So that's what I have to say straight up, full on. It's way more than them keeping the borders open. It's not Biden. Biden, he's not charging anything. So the open borders really have two objectives. All right. Democrats in Texas are already pushing that illegal aliens should be allowed to vote. So you're looking at the illegal votes. So whatever state, but Texas, if they come across in Texas, they're going to come across in New York and Ohio and all the other places where they end up. And number two, they are being joined nationally, and Biden, I say Biden, quote unquote, will do an executive order to allow them to vote pre-2024, if we even have an election. I don't know if we're going to have a 2024 now that it's looking like that. So the left has determined to end freedom and democracy, just like Zelensky. It will be their way or no way. So they have deliberately allowed terrorist cells to enter so they can justify more restraints on our freedom. We talked about that with whatever's going to, the Patriot Act times 10. So welcome to the decline and fall of the U.S. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is it. So,
now, speaking of that exact decline and that fall, major story breaking right now. You're telling me how major donors and sponsors of our colleges, our Ivy League colleges, by the way, are withdrawing their support.
Yeah.
And why are they withdrawing their support?
It's just the beginning because of Hamas. You know, all these colleges have come out straight Hamas, straight. You know, but here's the list so far. So they're not getting any more donations from these guys. Billionaire Jewish investor Leon Cooperman has just announced that he is stopping all future giving to Columbia University after Joseph Massad, professor of modern Arab politics, called the Hamas massacre awesome. "Quote unquote awesome." Cooperman has donated $50 million to the school. So, and his is a quote of his: "I think these kids at colleges have poop for brains," and he didn't say poop. So Cooperman joins a growing list of large donors who have pulled funding from some of America's formerly prestigious universities. Israeli billionaires Aydin and Batia Ofer donated more than $20 million to Harvard Kennedy School. They are quitting the school's board and will stop giving. Wharton mega donor and billionaire Mark Rowan has stopped giving and is publicly calling on other large donors to close their checkbooks. Utah billionaire John Huntsman has stopped giving to UPenn over their school's response to the Hamas attacks. David Magerman, who helped build Renaissance Technologies, is also pulling his money from UPenn. Jonathan Jacobson of High Sage Ventures, who has given tens of millions to UPenn, closed his checkbook as well to cut it off. And a nonprofit funded by former Victoria's Secrets billionaire Leslie Wexner and his wife Abigail have cut off ties with Harvard University. I'm sure this is just the beginning. It's crazy because all the big Jewish people that have been donating to all these top colleges, and these are all the people that voted for Biden. You know?
Yeah, and you know it does have other consequences because what you're seeing right now is you're seeing these people withdrawing their support because they're waking up to the fact that they're indoctrinating the next round of anti-Semitism with their own money.
Well, what did I say last week? Right? Wasn't it last week that I had the percentage of colleges that I talked about?
Yeah.
You know, so it's loony bin. It's crazy.
Yeah. And you know what the great thing about our system is? When you have people on the left that are calling from the river to the sea, and they're on the faculty of these colleges, you have the response of a free market and a free speech. Cooperman and the other people withdrawing their funds. That's how the system has checks and balances.
It works exactly. You're nailing it right on the right. That's Jay. You nailed it.
That's the most important thing. That's why you need free speech. You need unpopular, you need speech that people don't agree with so that there can be a reaction. The correction comes from the market.
The correction is the reaction. Yes.
And we're seeing it. And I hope some of these universities, these hallowed halls of education, I hope they go bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
liars.
Yes.
Absolute liars.
Liars.
Take that side. Anyway, I could go on all day about Ivy League colleges, but let's talk. Let's talk because our next topic, a bigger liar than Nixon has gone to China.
Oh my gosh, Gavin Newsom. Yes. Gavin Newsom. So I don't know how many people saw this. Governor Gavin Newsom had a surprise meeting with Xi Jinping. He had a warm welcome in Beijing. So Gavin Newsom is on a week-long trip. He's pushing for climate cooperation but my personal takeaway from the meeting is we are witnessing the next president. Remember I talked about this a couple shows ago. I said either Michelle or Gavin.
Why is he important enough to go and meet?
I said, they're all like sitting making his first appearance. All right. Remember, I reported this weeks back. So they're storing, so I'm going to go back even more so to my story that in California, the storing of bioengineered mice laden with COVID. Remember that from the Reedley City, the facility in Reedley City. So it's about 24 miles east of Fresno. It was called Prestige Biotech. And so Newsom gave them a grant, remember, but the story died out, right? I mean, I didn't hear any of it. Yeah.
It disappeared real quick.
Yeah, totally disappeared. Newsom gave the parent company $600,000 in taxpayer grant 2 years before they abandoned the lab. They obtained the lab. They obtained the lab. All of Newsom ties to CCP, right? He's tied to the Chinese. Anyway, it looks like Newsom has already been installed as the next Swamp King. The fix is in. Totally, fix is in.
By the way, just on a different topic, but similar to, I had a Gavin Newsom apologist explain that whole lab to me, because he felt that I was very unfair. He explained it to me that, because of our draconian medical practice and needing, you cannot break the law when it comes to importing some of this vital research.
Wow.
American labs can't do it because it's against the law. So the only way we can stay on the cutting edge of medical technology is to have Chinese have laboratories here. And because they're Chinese national companies, they don't have to follow the laws of America.
Wow.
That's how a Democrat apparatchik explained that to me, and why it wasn't a big deal at all.
Wow. That's crazy. And then you know what? They're just going to get more and more, obscure with their thought.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to make a small correction, because I do have people that work for the state that I know, good friends of mine. We don't call him Governor Newsom if we work for the state. He is Emperor Newsom. So the Emperor of California is meaning the Emperor of the Middle Kingdom.
Yes. And this is big. This is big, huge. They've played their hand. That's why I'm saying he's the next guy. I thought it was Michelle, but it's him.
He's the WEF anointed, probably with a Michelle chaser.
Yeah, maybe vice president. Who knows?
Yeah,
that would be it.
Speaking of our overlords that we must all bow to and make sure that they know that we all understand that they are our overlords, we have a video. This video is about water. Very important topic, but also it plays into the narrative of the pandemic. So I'm just going to play that real quick.
That's also, of course, true with COVID, right? We are all only as healthy as our neighbor is on our street, in our city, in our region, in our nation, and globally. And did we solve that? Did we actually manage to vaccinate everyone in the world? No. So highlighting water as a global commons and what it means to work together and see it both out of that kind of global commons perspective, but also the self-interest perspective, because it does have that parallel. It's not only important, but it's also important because we haven't managed to solve those problems which had similar attributes. And water is something that people understand. Climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water, every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water. So there's also something about really getting citizen engagement around this and really, in some ways, experimenting with this notion of the common good. Can we actually deliver this time in ways that we have failed miserably other times? And hopefully we won't keep failing on the other things, but anyway.
Oh. And yeah. So
the last thing you want to do is put them in charge of water.
Yeah.
Health is bad enough. Water crisis will succeed in establishing world government where COVID and climate change failed. Right? That's just so can we actually deliver this time in ways we have failed miserably other times, is a quote, right? A clip from WF Davos meeting last year. This isn't from last year. So it received little attention and it's starting to go viral now. People are starting to share it a little more. So WF spokesperson, that's Professor Maria Mazzucato, lamented how COVID and climate change failed to bring about the world government. All right, they're all pushing world government. She then insinuates that a water crisis will be catalyst that imposes a world government upon humanity. So, and you heard her. Our attempt to vaccinate the entire planet failed.
climate change, which is too abstract for people to understand. But the coming water crisis is something that everyone will get on board with. And another quote, can we actually deliver this time in ways we have failed miserably at other times? So the WEF failed to control humanity with a bioengineered virus, failed to control humanity with the lie that the planet is dying, and is now targeting water as a means of imposing its world government agenda. So, yeah. And that's a crazy. This week's a good week, man. I found some good stuff.
This is a great week, but I just wanted to share. You know, I've been watching a lot of not TikTok but Instagram lately, and there's two videos I've seen this week about the same topic. It's about an airman in the Air Force. Every day he was drinking his coffee from his coffee machine, and every day his wife was putting chlorine in it. And then another man was the same thing. Every day he was getting sick. He's starting to get violently sick, starting to have stomach pains. And then he set up a camera, and his wife was putting chlorine inside the coffee maker every day before he drank his coffee.
Wow.
The analogy I'm trying to bring up is having the WEF talk about water and seizing control of water or using water as a crisis to bring about the world government. Talk about spiking your coffee machine with chlorine. Chlorine is the least of your worries if the WEF gets their hands on water.
Yeah. And turning it off and just, So if you want to, I always have water. I always have a little extra.
Well, Ken, if things start to really get dark here in LA, I mean, if I can escape through the freeways, I might be going to Arizona.
We got a room, buddy. We got a room. We might have a lot of people here, but you get along with everybody. You'd be more than welcome.
All right.
Do you want me to go through the 10 headlines?
I do. Our next topic is the top 10 headlines that you saw in the news this week. Ken,
these are the 10. I've been doing 10 headlines each week. Last week I didn't do it. We didn't have time. But 10 headlines that did not make it to the maybe a couple that you might have seen, but you probably haven't seen any of these. But the top 10 headlines that didn't make it in the news. Top number 10, the Senate bans federal mask mandates on commercial flights. Kind of cool. Number 9, former President Trump plans to pull out of NATO if demands are not met if he is elected in 2024. That's interesting. Number 8, top Swiss banker calls for the arrest of globalist Klaus Schwab for democide by way of mRNA COVID injections. So number 7, Texas Representative Ronnie Jackson has requested Representative Rashida Tlaib to be barred from intelligence briefings for the safety of the U.S. I would agree on that one. So number 6, Joe Biden purchased his luxury $2.75 million Delaware home with all cash after Hunter Biden threatened his Chinese business partner in a $5 million bribe. Number 5, House Republicans call for immediately impeachment of Joe Biden. I actually saw that one. Number 4, Oklahoma has officially banned sex change for minors. Number 3, 60% of U.S. voters believe top officials at the FBI have helped cover up wrongdoings by Biden and his family members. That's interesting. Number 2, less than 24 hours after Maine shooting, Kamala Harris calls for the U.S. to model themselves after Australia when it comes to gun control. I won't even get into that. Number 1, Democratic Congressman Jamil Bowman's criminally charged for falsely pulling a fire alarm. So they finally got him. Those are the top 10 stories that you might have known a couple of them, but they weren't in the headlines. There you go. I'm going to do 10 a week if I can.
All right. Well, thank you for those 10. I'm glad that we can have some light on some of those subjects that the mainstream media will not touch. Here's another story. We're going to look at a picture here. A very interesting picture, by the way. One of the protests that we've seen this week. We're just going to take a look. Here we have.
There is. I don't know where that's at, but that's the protest, Queers for Palestine, and then that's actually what they do to homosexuals in Palestine and in Muslim countries.
Yes, and it also, when I saw this, I couldn't help but make a connection to something that I've seen many times. I'm just going to play a video real quick.
I'm the crowd who's out to change our history. I'll myself raise your hand. There's no greater dictator in the land.
That's a classic, but yes, that is about as sensical as Palestine.
Oh, so the LGBTQ groups nationwide come out in support of Hamas, and they don't understand what's next, like the Jews for Hitler, right? Mm-hmm. So that was obviously the movie producers, and Hitler was, yeah. It's crazy.
Springtime for Hitler in Germany.
Yeah, and so real quick, one of the notable characteristics of Marxists is their tilt for denying reality and demanding you do so as well. Even as American cities burned in the run-up to the 2020 elections, you were told repeatedly by experts that Antifa did not exist, right? And everything you were witnessing was a product of largely peaceful protests against fascist oppression. The thing is that Marxists don't just demand you tumble down the rabbit hole into an alternative reality. They actually believe this stuff for themselves. All over the country, we're seeing massive organized protests in support of Hamas. Many of these groups organizing these protests are LGBTQ entities. They seem completely oblivious to the fact that they are allying themselves with a radical Islamic group that would murder them in cold blood for their sins and their advocacy. These groups, the Gays for Gaza and Queers for Palestine, pledge themselves to some kind of worldwide liberation struggle in which the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas is equated with the American civil rights movement. And it's crazy. The stark, horrifying reality of what Hamas is and what it stands for is dismissed entirely. Hamas is not a secular organization. It is expressly Muslim.
Fundamentalist Islamic.
Yes. It interprets the Quran as other groups do, like the Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, right? In Gaza, homosexuality is illegal. There are no LGBTQ rights in Gaza. Hamas kills anyone who commits a crime against Islamic law. Since being gay is against Islam, gay people can be put to death. Gays and transgender individuals in Gaza enjoy no protection under the law. To the contrary, homosexual behavior is officially illegal. If caught engaging in such activity, you will be brutalized and, if necessary, executed. It's crazy.
What they don't understand is when they are under the laws of an Islamic state is when they will reveal their aversion. Right now, they're the useful idiot. They'll take anybody who has a sympathetic ear to their cause, but the moment that they have a power, they will not show tolerance to the LGBTQ community at all. No. And I think, unfortunately, there are some very smart people in the LGBTQ as far as intelligence, but I think wisdom-wise, they are very naive, thinking that they can play with the cobra.
Yeah. And they're playing with the cobra, the spiritual aspect of the demonic overlord of that whole religion. Yeah.
Speaking about a snake, let's go to our next video about the serpent, the serpent with four eyes.
They took their experience and actually prepared, and so they moved a lot faster. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. Mm-hmm. I'd say is will get attention this time. Mm-hmm. I'd say is will get attention this time. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Bill.
Look at that smirk.
Thanks, Bill. So, I really never trusted his software. So now he wants to own my food. He wants to provide all of my food, and then on top of that, he wants to provide my health care. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, and look at what he's done. Look at what he's done in Africa. Look, he's been kicked out of Africa.
Yeah.
You know, he's been kicked out, and yeah. So I don't know the millions of dead that they attribute, and I forget what vaccine it was, but
yeah.
It's so we gonna go into this.
Let's do it. So our final story, I'm just going to preface it by saying we will be censoring it, because if we do not, it will absolutely be censored by YouTube, probably a strike. Therefore, you will not be able to hear the sound, but you can go to Rumble and hear our final story. I'll leave it as a link in the description.
Cool.
Take it away, Ken.
That it's nuts.
It is, but Ken, since we're at the end of our show, thank you again for all the hard work you do to bring all these stories to us. If you don't mind, I'm just going to close it out by saying to our listeners, to the people that actually watch the show, we just want to let you know there's a lot of heavy stuff. There's a lot of really disastrous, dark things going on, and we as Christians have to be that salt and light to shed some light on these dark things, so that these dark deeds don't pass without somebody sounding the alarm, being watchmen. And also, this is the time more than ever, as we see these events going by, this is the time that we can rejoice knowing that God has promised us.
Look up.
Look up, our redemption draws nigh.
Amen.
So thank you so much for watching this episode of Ken's Corner. We hope to see you again. God bless.